Hi Manish,
Yes, sir. How are you?
I'm very good. Can you hear me loud and clear?
Loud and clear.
Very good. Maybe you can increase your volume, maybe?
Is it okay now?
Yeah, better.
Great. We have a couple of more participants are coming in.
Yeah, we'll wait for them.
Yes, yes, yes.
I'll just see if I can.
Morning, Shankar sir. Krishnajan here.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Um,
We have some 8-9 people around here.
can you make me host so that I can present?
I'm not sure. Let me try if I can make you a host.
Sir, go to the participant section and then just
I made.
scroll
Yeah.
on.
Got it.
Shankar
Got
sir's
it.
name.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
So now you are the host.
Okay. Krishnarjun, we can present even without being a host, or you need to be a host to present?
You have to be host to present, I guess.
No, not required, sir. That share option is given to everyone unless the host has restricted that access, saying host only can present.
Okay, Manish, Krishnarjun is Rotary and he's an expert on this, Zoom thing, moderation.
Okay.
What we'll do is we'll make him the host, okay? And he can then, while we are concentrating on the talk, he can then admit people and all those things. Otherwise, we'll be busy doing all that. So, Krishnarjun, will you take over the responsibility of managing the people?
Sir, I would suggest you can have me as co-host. I'll assist, but if the majority can be done because I'm handling one more meeting simultaneously as of now.
Okay.
I think,
That's happening on
don't worry, I'll be able to manage it.
Manish will manage.
Yeah.
You can make me co-host, sir. If there is anything, I'll just come in and help you out.
I don't know, somehow I'm not unable to do that.
No, sir. Once you make Shankar sir host, you will not be able to make it. He'll have to.
Now Shankar is the host, so I already lost it.
Shankar sir, you can make Manish sir and myself as co-host if it's allowing you to make two people co-host.
No, I'm
Otherwise,
just.
If it's just one person, you can make Manish sir co-host.
1 minute. There is an option which says make host, right? But it doesn't. There's no option which says co-host.
It's okay, Shankar. I think we'll continue with this and we'll do R&D a little later.
I'm putting you back in the host position.
Okay. Okay.
Can you see the slide?
Yes, we
Yes,
can.
sir, we can see.
Okay. So then we will continue as it is from here. You just meanwhile have to keep approving people who are.
That's what I'm doing. So I think probably next time onwards, I'll allow everyone to join in.
Okay, you can just put everybody on mute except you and me. There is an option to mute everybody.
If I'll mute every, people are doing by default they'll be on mute, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. If they want to speak, they can hold the space bar and they can speak.
Okay, I request everybody to go on mute and we will start in a couple of minutes from now. Manish?
Yes, sir.
People are joining, so we'll just wait for people to come in there.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, rest of us can be on mute. Manish and I will be on the speaker. So far, how many people do we have?
We have some 14 people, including us.
Okay. Meanwhile, I think people can go on to speaker view. That way, you will only have the speaker video being visible.
I think we got some 14 people as of now, and there is no
14.
more signups are coming in.
All right. So we'll start then. A very good morning to all of you, and welcome to this short presentation on storytelling in travel photography by Manish and me. We will take you through the next, we have around 40 minutes. We will do a longer session maybe later on if you guys are interested to go a deep dive in this. But this is basically an introduction to storytelling for the time being. And so welcome everybody to this morning's session. So a quick introduction about me, and I've been practicing photography for the last 15 odd years, and I specialize in doing travel photography. Over the course of time, I have attended many workshops from international travel photographers, and this has helped me to enrich myself on some of the key aspects of travel photography, and I've evolved over a period of time. So probably I would like to share how I've evolved over a period of time. How did I start off, and where am I at this point of time? Manish, would you like to introduce yourself?
Can you go to the next slide?
I've already gone.
Okay, so I might be taking a little delay on it. So I'm Manish Lakhani. I'm based in Baroda when not traveling. I'm expert in travel documentary and landscape photography, and I'm occasionally, I'll do a wildlife, one very special kind of a wildlife in high altitude. And I'm a Sony brand ambassador as of now in India. And I also, if you are aware with the software called Luminar, I'm a brand ambassador for Asia for that, and I'm an official photographer of DC filters. And I'm also working as one of the mentor on data photography. That's where we run travel photography workshops and wildlife photography, and in India, across Southeast Asia, and a couple of places on the polar and other things. And my work is published through a National Geographic, BBC, Adobe, WWF, Lonely Planet, and CC, CNN Travel. And I also work with a video documentaries to facilitate these kind of people to make the documentary. And my work is also published through lots of books and web and print media. And I'm also doing some kind of fine art prints based on need. This is all about me.
Right, Manish, we are very fortunate that you are with us today, and we'll be able to tap into your experience, and maybe you'll be sharing with us probably an example of how we can make a travel story. So the way we decided is, I would introduce you to what a travel photo essay or a travel story is all about, and Manish would take you through a real-time example of how he builds a story. I know we have very limited time, but we'll try our level best to see how much we can cover, and also see if we can also have some time for Q&As. So this is an interesting image I made in the Pushkar. So there are some messages, Manish. Would you also keep a tab on those messages as well, and see what's happening, and then accordingly.
I that group all. So if messages are coming in the group, then definitely I'll
all right. Yeah. Okay. All right. If you look at this image, there is this family there who's taking a selfie in their camera, and then there is this photographer who goes around and takes images and sells his selfie photographs. Yesterdays, when there was no technology, this was quite useful, but today everybody seems to have a photographer, and therefore it is quite a challenge for this boy to make a living at this point of time. So a short story there. But the problem with photography these days is probably the Manish, can you just put everybody on mute? There are somebody who's still mic is still on. May I request everybody to be on mute, please, because it interferes with the presentation.
I'm trying it.
Right. So we see that in the 2000, the average human attention span was 12 seconds. In 2013, it has come to 8 seconds, according to the study. And the goldfish has an average, span of 9 seconds. So we tend to have less than attention span of less than even a goldfish at this point of time. So what does it mean for photography? Is that the photograph that you're taking is just a swipe left, or swipe in an Instagram or a Facebook is just a swipe. So how do you actually get people to be more interested in the body of work that you have? The one of the ways of doing it is probably actually make a body of work and actually tell a story, which will keep people engaged in the kind of work you're doing. So, what are some of the elements of a story? And we'd like to, take this up with an example. And I would like to take an example of one of the greatest photographers that we would come across, and that is Eugene W. Smith. And he was a photographer for Life magazine and Magnum, and he's done a huge body of work. And if you're a photographer, it's very important you study this photographer, Eugene W. Smith. So today we're going to take one of his photo essays, and this is of a doctor, it's called a country doctor. And this doctor, Seriani, is actually catering to a population of around 2,000 people in the countryside, and he decided to move from the city to the country to serve the people, even though he could have made a better living in the city and earned more money. This is a story about what he does. Now, Eugene Smith spent around 23 days following him day and night. Now, when I say day and night, even in the middle of the night, if this doctor gets a call, he would get up with him, take a photograph of him in the middle of the night. So that's what I mean by shadowing him for 23 days to come up with these set of images. Now, if we study this body of work and study this photo essay, it gives us a clear idea of how we actually go about the story. So let's start with what we call as an establishing shot. And this is an establishing shot of the doctor. Now, how do we know he's a doctor? Because yes, he's carrying that doctor's bag, which is very typical of a doctor there. Now, how do we know it's a country doctor? We know it's a country doctor by the environment that is there, that's been shown, and the seriousness on his face, and the emotion that is there. Maybe he's concerned about the patient that he is going to, the locale where he is. This is what we call as an establishing shot. And something to introduce the character, something to introduce the story to the audience. So if you see, that's the starting picture that Eugene Smith's maybe the magazine has picked up from his body of work. Now, from there, we go on to a series of small stories. And these are the following magazine pictures, where here you find that there is a patient who's, a person who's brought his child for a checkup to his hospital. And, the kind of different fields that this particular, a typical doctor, when you go to a hospital today, you have an ENT, you have an orthopedic, you have different things. But this story, what they're saying is that this doctor covers everything, whether it's a bone or whether it is a surgery or whether it is a ENT, everything is all in all. So here you can find that in this picture, you find him giving an injection to person who was feeling a little, having some heart palpitations, and he is given an injection of morphine. He is checking out somebody, a young kid, on the left-hand side bottom, somebody who has tonsillitis. And on the right-hand side, he's explaining an X-ray to somebody. Below, he is bandaging somebody who fell down from a horse and broken his ribs. So he's bandaging them. And below that, he's got a picture of a person who is unable to hear, an elderly person. And he is removing the wax by injecting some warm water into the ear and therefore cleaning the wax. And here he is a young boy who has cut himself and therefore he's attending to him. Now, if you look at all these images, the expressions, the story, the lighting, that's very important. Now, Eugene Smith, what he did was, those days, there was the beginning of use of flash photography per se in documentaries like this, because there was very low lighting. He studied light and he was a master of light. So he would probably flash the light, away from the subject and not use it on top of the camera like most photographers at that time used to do. And he would try to use the available light, and he would come up with some spectacular images. And all this was mostly made from a 35 mm camera with 35 mm lens, shot on film in black and white those days, where he himself used to develop and print most of the images. So what is the life of the country doctor? What does he do apart from just treating patients? So here he is seen going on a fishing trip with his friends. His friends are taking him on a fishing trip and he's fishing, but suddenly he gets a call during the fishing trip of an emergency of a little baby who's kicked by a horse, and he has to rush back. And you can see the expressions on their face while he's treating them, and the expression on his face, his concern and his empathy and compassion while he's treating that young child who's being kicked by the horse. You can also see that he is taking himself personally escorting the person who's fallen off from a horse, and his elbow has been disjointed. And there's a very interesting story on the right hand side where he's holding the patient hand. The patient has been given some injection to be a little numb, and he's a little dizzy, and he's telling his doctor, "Don't tell my mother." And on the right hand side, his mother is actually holding his left hand. If you really actually see the entire story, it's so interesting that you wish to spend a lot more time on the story as you hear these doctors' exploits. Below, this person has got gangrene, and this old man's leg has to be amputated, and he has to give us injection in the spine to amputate his leg. So he's in this story, he's got a call in the middle of the night that elderly 82-year-old man is unwell, and he has to rush to see and attend to him. On the right hand side top, he's actually in the kitchen with the family members, and he's calling the priest to attend to the patient. So this is the picture. Now we're coming to a close, and this is a picture of him looking at. We're looking at the area which he's covering, where most of the time he has to even go by foot or go by horse to these places. And here's the hospital. And this is what we call as a closing image, where there's a lot of mini stories, short stories, characters, who is he treating, and all those things. And finally, we are at this place where he's just resting from a surgery in the middle of the night, having a cup of coffee after attending to a patient. To look at the kind of work he's done, how exhausted he is, and how he's himself working so hard and to take care of the people. So I'm sure you kind of enjoyed the story after you learned the background. But if you look at today, most of us don't have this kind of liberty of time. We just want what we call as parachute photographers. We go to a place 2-3 days, we just swoop in and we try to take some pictures. So most of the time earlier, we spent time taking individual brilliant shots, saying that, for example, I went to cover Holi in Nandgaon and Barsana, and I would come with a picture like this, and I'd say wow, and everybody said wow, and then I'd said, yeah, this is what is a big story, and then that's about it. But I learned that, there's more to just taking some brilliant individual shots and, taking a picture, telling a story through a series of pictures and stitching these pictures together is a much more interesting aspect. So I'll now pass on to Manish to probably give us an example of, how we
Shankar,
can
we
go.
have some more time if you want to go through with couple of more images, which
I'll come to this, but maybe, we can finish your story and then we can come to some of the other things.
Sure,
So I'll
sure.
just quickly go to your.
Yeah. Just help me with my part of presentation will be great rather than passing on to the host.
So yeah.
Go ahead.
Go back. Yeah. This is where your
After this.
presentation starts.
Yeah, so that was the Buffalo one was the right one. Yeah, correct. So, you must have heard, all of you must have heard about, not the ritual, but village sports called Kamvala, which happens in northern part of Karnataka, close to the coastal part. So this is like, when we see this kind of an images, we always say, wow, it's a beautiful image. But and also image tells a story about, what is happening around, what kind of a race, energy and everything. But it's just a good individual image. But when what Shankar was telling, the way example is gave about the doctor, there are so many other things which is happening close to this particular event. If I'm doing a travel photography, for me, it's not only important to take a opening shot like this, where, image give you a impression that, wow, this is an image, but afterwards you have no idea what is happening around. So whenever you are, getting into this kind of places, there is nothing wrong making a beautiful images like this. So that gives you, overall feeling about the place, and like this could be your opening shot for your story, what you are going to talk about this kind of event where, so let's go through, couple of example how you can make a beautiful photo story about this. Because so basically, when we are going to such kind of places, and if you are not a parachute kind of a photographer, because this event generally runs for 3 to 4 days, and definitely we can, take out this kind of a thing. Somebody is saying there is a problem with the computer. Okay. So so you really can make a good story out of it, and you can give, not only the visual aspect about the place, but overall story, what is happening in the, background. So if you can, put it down in a different slice of story, you can make a couple of images about the preparation for the event, of what is happening in surrounding environment, activities with support to this kind of event. Then definitely, the audience of this event is a core part, because everyone wants to come and see. So there is nothing wrong, taking some images for audience also, which gives you, it's a like it's a topping, like a cherry on your cake kind of a thing. And if it is necessary, one should take some, behind the scene kind of shots also. It's not in all the situations, but sometimes, you can take those kind of images, and when you're talking with your families and friends, you can say, how you took the images and everything. So that is also helpful, and you can make really many more things when you are telling the story.
So can I just add, Manish, that not all the pictures need to be be extremely well
Yes.
framed
So
or
basically,
focus on stuff like that.
yeah.
When you're telling a story, sometimes you have to be in the moment, and you have to be closer to that particular scene, what is happening. Do your research a little bit, find out what is happening, and that's
Yes.
where probably a photo tour will, like what Manish and I are involved with, like data, helps us to give us a brief about what is happening, so that we don't have to do a lot of research sometimes. But if you're going alone, then you might have to really spend 2-3 days before and go and inquire and talk to people, make those connections, so that you know what is happening, and be there at the right time, in the right place, in the right location to get those images.
Yeah, so basically, what Shankar is saying is right. So if you are going with a group, definitely you have some kind of a help where, people are expert and they know the location and story and everything. But definitely, eh, if you are going your own, the research about the place, research about that ritual or activity, whatever is going to, happen in that place, is always necessary to, find out, because anyone can take a good picture. But if someone asks you to make a story, then, everyone struggles with that. So whenever you are doing that, and that is the main, aspect of a travel photography. It's not making only good pictures but to make the story. So definitely one should take some beautiful images where you can represent those individual images. Then some of the pictures, which is like a supporting kind of a thing, which supports your main story. Yeah, somebody is asking, how many images. Yeah, you can make it within 10 also. You can make it, it depends on how much liberty you have it. So you can make, images based on that. So we'll go through with a couple of examples, on this one. Shankar, can you go on the next slide? So let's build a story around, Kambala Buffalo race. Yeah. So first, in Kambala, the individual team, the Buffalo, they have to come and register themselves. So they have to pay some kind of money and everything. So, this will give you an idea. Like two images. One is the guy who is writing the name and everything, making, entry forms. He's taking money. You can see that what is happening. And, the two people are also discussing. Same time, the next image, people are participants. They are giving their details and everything. So that's like, it's a part of your story. What happening initially before the race starts. Yeah. Next. Yeah. So there also, some rituals are happening, like, some kind of a puja and some celebrations before they start race. So you should go inside the temple or what kind of a premises there are around where ritual things are happening. So you should go and take some pictures. So these are the pictures where, they're running through some drum and bugle and everything they were playing around. The guy who was standing inside the door, he is the main guy who is responsible for, this particular event. He's a family chief actually. So he is granting permission for this kind of an event. So it's also important to know that what kind of rituals are happening and why they are doing it. So whenever you're making a story, apart from picture, when you're writing a text, you should know why they are doing it. Second, next one. Shankar?
Yeah, it just takes a little time to upload probably the moment I click. So it's just
Yeah.
have to wait.
Oh, okay. I got the next one. Yeah. So, it's also like there are lots of other activities keeps happening around. It's not only the temple. So there is nothing wrong you to go out and see what's happening around. So some people, they also, they come and cheer up their team. So they have their own drum system to cheer up their team. So there is nothing wrong making a couple of images like that. The way this guy is playing drum. So I know that guy was, welcoming his team, getting into the field. Second one, they have another ritual where, people are also dressing up in this kind of costume. And, there is another representation of a small buffalo kind of a thing, make out of the wood and leaves. So he's like a character who is, entertaining people around, and same time, he's trying to get some kind of a money for himself and his family. So that's also a part of story, what things are happening around.
Manish, I just like to add here that many times when I've seen photographers who go to these places, they're just taking a long lens and then going around from shooting from far and, making some images and then getting away. And they never have a conversation with anybody. They then don't talk to anybody. They don't interact with anybody. And, they really don't get the essence of the place, because somewhere they've seen the Kambala, that buffalo image running, and all they are interested in just taking that image and then going away, So, for example, if you could spend time talking to the drummer, we could actually make a story only on the drummer. Or maybe if you can talk to that fellow, who's there in the right-hand side of the picture, those villagers, and maybe, find out from which village they are, what is it that they're happening, how they are going about. Each of these sub-stories have got a possibility to, build more stories around them. But unfortunately, most of us don't have time. We are working people, so we'll go there 2 days, weekend, Saturday, Sunday morning. You fly down, take some pictures, taka, and then you come back and then you upload on Facebook and then say, get a few likes and the story is over.
So basically, what I have seen, whenever, people go there, they like, come with like, 3,000, 4,000 different images. But when you ask them to make a story, they have no idea. They have no idea whether they were, they were talking to whom. They have no idea what is the name of the participant, where they are coming from. So basically, when you want to be a travel photographer, these are the essential things one should know. You have to talk to people. Even for me, being a Gujarati, I really can't speak, the local language out there. But I found like, talking with young guys who can talk to you in Hindi or English and, try to make them mediators. If that's not possible, try to hire a local guide who can be a mediator for you, which helping you to, derive the stories from different characters. And when you are involving some local people with you, that becomes very easy to, get in touch with local people. You can mingle with, the local activities, whatever is happening around. So I always feel that when you want to do like a travel story, one must and make sure you have a local person along with you when you don't need the language. If you know the language and if you can mingle with people, definitely you can have a main story along with lots of sub stories, and definitely not that one event can help you to make the entire book, not like a couple of pictures or a small story about it.
Right. So I agree with Manish on that. Yeah.
The next one, sir.
Let's move on. Shall we go to the next one?
Yeah. So this is what, before they start the race, they generally take their buffaloes in some kind of a vehicle. They get them down, and they have to prepare and decorate their animals also, and they want to make sure their animal really look nice. So they do lots of preparation and decoration to their animals. So you should not forget this kind of images to take. So this is like, part of some group activity which is happening along with the different participants.
And what is very interesting is that kind of lens, Manish has chosen there. He's not just used a, long lens and shot a picture from far, and he's right there as close as possible. So I'm guessing that it is something like a 24-70 or a 16-35 or a 17.
I love 16-35 on most of my shoot. So, when I'm shooting this kind of event, I make sure I have a 16 with me, because, what I feel when I'm shooting with the wide angle, I feel that I'm very close to them, and my subject is also aware what I'm doing it.
So
I
that's
really
something
can
that
involve myself.
That's another thing that we tend to do, is that we try to think just because we have a long lens of 70-200 or a 70-300, we try to shoot from far because we don't want to get into this particular thing. But you get some very dramatic images, and also if you've seen the angle from which Manish has taken, he's brought in a lot more drama to what than with a probably a long lens. Another thing that I would also like to just point out is you see a lot of landscape oriented pictures than portrait pictures. Now most of the travel magazines, they also wish to see a lot more landscape oriented pictures. Yes, you can have some portrait orientation. Portrait orientation is the the vertical alignment. This is the horizontal alignment. So they like some of them, but because of the page layouts and all those things, largely there's a lot more demand for these horizontal layouts. Manish, you could just probably highlight a little bit on the orientation, and I know it depends on the topic, but basically from travel magazine perspective and from a story perspective,
Yeah,
what kind
so
of orientation?
basically most of the people, they want to use, when they are using images for the article which is supporting images like this, what you are seeing right now, they should be mostly like landscape orientation, where they can put the text wherever they want to. Basically they can align that text really well on this kind of images, and basically they want to make a front page, or maybe their the article kind of main page. They might use a different orientation. There might be a single image, or maybe some kind of aerial shot, or basically we call it as an opening shot. Opening shot can be anything, and definitely you should keep those things in a mind, what kind of image you really would like to do it. Sometimes I leave it to the editors, who wants to design that particular page. If they ask that kind of an image, I'll try to find the image, or we crop it basically. But landscape image like this helps a lot when you are putting up the article and in between images for your story.
Right.
So next slide, sir.
Yeah, next slide is up here. And Manish, just this thing that we have got an extension from Zoom, and now we could extend a little bit if required. If our viewers have some questions, we can probably take it.
So basically, there is another activity how they bring the buffaloes close to the arena, which generally they run. It is like 100 plus 200 meters kind of area which is full of water and mud. So these are the images which help you. You can shoot this kind of images from far distance, but you will not be able to see people are looking into your camera. So that really looks nice when you are close to, your subject. Everyone should know, what kind of work you are also doing. They are also giving different kind of expressions on their face. And the most important thing, when you are shooting this kind of image, you are a part of it, rather than sitting on the distance and taking some kind of images which you really yourself feel that you are from the distance. So make sure when you are shooting some images, take a little risk, a careful risk, go close and take images.
That's something that I have to point out. Somebody who's moving from wildlife to travel photography might find that many of these photographs are, kind of cluttery, messy, the background, there's a lot of things, because typically wildlife photographers would like to probably see background out of focus, shoot with f2.8, and, those kind of, impressions about wildlife photography, that, the subject has to stand out. But here, in this case, there's a lot of stories that are happening. Where is this happening? Where, what kind of, you can see the coconut trees at the back. You can see there are posters, advertisements, there are shamianas, there are people who are looking around. And you will find also in many of the events, lots of photographers also in the event, in the
You
frame.
can see on the second picture, the people who are close to the shamiana where there's a finish line, you can find some photographers, they are standing out there.
So you can't avoid them, and you can't, remove them in Photoshop and stuff like that. In a photo essay, it's more like a documentary. You are trying to document what is happening there, and maybe these pictures will not win an award. If you send them for a, award function, maybe this will really not get awards. But as a story, these are all important events that are happening there.
Because, in this kind of storytelling, you are taking your audience along with you. So basically, they are not there with you. We don't have, liberty to show them video everywhere. So pictures will give you an idea what kind of activities are happening in that area.
Shall I move on?
Yeah. So, once they land in the arena, so there is an activity where, on the first picture, or the people who are on the white clothes, they observe the animal and, looking at the animals and check their health condition and everything. They want to make sure no weeds or, some kind of things are given to the animal to run fast. So there is a one-step process where, they make sure they are not abusing animals and everything. And the second image where, people are out there for the turn to race. So basically, this is another part of the story where, people are also gathering on one side. They go and, start. You can see in the second story, is one buffalo, two buffaloes are already running around. So this is also an essential part when, about your storytelling, the entire process, whatever is happening around.
Another thing is that in places like this, you might not get the best place to stand and take pictures. So you probably have to do homework before to figure out and anticipate what is happening and
So,
stand.
this kind
And
of
maybe,
event, Shankar, I generally get good pictures on the second day, because first day I keep, if I'm visiting for the first time, because first day I try to go and observe rather than making pictures, what's happening around. And, second day, definitely, once I see the location and I've seen the previous day activity, that gives me a more idea where I can make good pictures, and the, the light condition, the place where I can go and stand. By the time, first day meeting with people, I might have made good friends. So they allow me to go close wherever I want.
So I think more and more I say that human relations and connections and networking and trying to build rapport with the people there in that area, it plays a big role in trying to get these good images.
Correct. The next one. Yeah, so as I said, audience is also a core part of any event. If the audience is not there, you can understand, like take an example of any game, like a cricket or whatever it is. We definitely will not enjoy the game even on sitting on the TV, because there is no audience, no one is cheering up. So make sure you should take some picture of the audience. So, that really helps to build your story, the reaction, the facial expression on, the people face. That helps a lot when you are, shooting them. So that could be a part of your story when you are representing the entire article. So never miss that. Sometimes people give you a beautiful portrait because they are into their own mood. So definitely you can make really a good candid pictures. Yeah, this is another way of taking the picture of the audience where that guy is running close to the finish line. So you can see the way people, got together, their excitement and everything. And same time, if the person is on the finish line, definitely this image is not full. Somehow people did not allow me to put the full image. So you can, see the water splashing everywhere. It's like, one kind of energy, which is, getting end to it, where you can see, people are also cheering around. So never forget, when you're shooting this kind of event, you go close to the finish line. And I really, typically when I'm shooting this kind of episode, I would like to take more risk, and I'm shooting with 1635. Oh, sorry, you moved on next slide.
Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. So you will find, when I was wondering, this person was, I saw him in the temple. He was a family chief, and I saw him sitting idle. He was not even participating in any kind of activities during this race. So I was curious, and I asked him what is happening around, why this guy is sitting alone. Then I got the story about him, saying he is known as a Asura. So Asura means basically he is the village chief or the family chief, and he is not supposed to be there in the ground till that particular event finished. There are some kind of mythical stories around. So it's always nice to see what is happening around, know the stories and everything. So probably when we go for a Kambala, probably most of the people will not tell you story about Asura and everything. So there is nothing wrong finding out a different aspect of a story. That's where you add your value addition when you are doing a storytelling or maybe a travel documentary. The next one, sir. And that's another thing, like when you are putting up this kind of an image, you are really put some more text where people also wants to engage reading. And last but not the least, there is nothing wrong making some beautiful image from the event, which really helps you to grow your like maybe the ending images can be like this, or maybe your opening images like this. That's always a great to add this kind of image, and definitely we are there to make that kind of images. So always try to make individual images which can stand out really well, rather than making only documentary images. Next, sir. Do you know what is me? This is the end of my story. But anyone has any idea? You can type it here and tell us in the chat what is missing. What was missing in that? Shankar, you have any idea what is the missing in the story? One says race, but race was anyway happening and Buffalo was running. I would like to add, some kind of, yes, this is what it is. Price distribution was missing because I was not there till that time. So that's the reason the price distribution was missing. And I realized I should have been there till, price distribution happens. But because I was running out of time and I had some kind of, activities lined up somewhere else, so I had to move this place. So yes, so when you want to make your story, make sure you have a full story rather than, missing something out. So yeah, price distribution was really missing out there. So that's the nice point. That was a nice catch.
Right. So we come to the end of this very short storytelling through photography, travel photography. We probably will like to do a longer session with some more examples. And you maybe go into the techniques of it, and maybe go into the technical aspect of it, what cameras, what lenses, and stuff like that. But we'd like right now to open this out for a few questions, maybe for the next 5 minutes, and then we will close the session. So if you have any questions, please feel free to type it in the chat, and then we could probably answer between Manish and I. We can answer those questions. Okay, so there's a question from Smriti who's asking what are the good platforms to submit photo essays and stories. And for this, I think Manish is the right person to answer it. So over to you.
So basically, you can pitch into different magazines. You can do that, but initially you have to create a story for yourself before you start pitching somewhere. That's where you start learning. So generally, if you can go and visit my profile on Behance, you will figure it out, lots of stories and this kind of things I keep putting on it. So that's where you'll get idea. And if you are uh, putting your stories built somewhere, or it can be your own platform, also your own websites. So that's the first kind of initial making stories and everything, initial step. And then slowly you start pitching up all the magazines, travel magazines, maybe in-flight magazines. So that can help you, but it's a long way to go. It's not so easy to pitch in the story with them.
So a good idea would be also to make some blogs, and then people can see your blogs, and that could also help in making the stories. So the next question we have is, what would be some of the typical lenses to carry? And I would recommend that when you're doing stuff like that, it is better to go with some minimum equipment. If you're carrying too many lenses, too many cameras, and sometimes like for example, Eugene Smith would carry a couple of cameras, not because he had to use many cameras, because there were two films, and if one film got over and there was a very important thing happening, he had to switch cameras. So sometimes he would carry two cameras with two 35mm film loaded into it, and it would be just about just the 35mm lens. My suggestion would be, I used to carry a lot of heavy equipment before, but later on I switched over to just carrying maybe a 24-70 or a 35mm lens, just to, or
Something I would like to
16-35.
suggest here, rather than carrying too many equipments, it's good. It's better to have two cameras. One is with the wide angle, and one is with the telephoto, maybe 70-200, 85, whatever you prefer. And one definitely you should have a 16-35 or 24-70 where you can take your wide angles. So two cameras, two lenses, they are attached with each other, and you forget rest of the things.
All right. So Manish uses a mirrorless camera, so it is much lighter. So if you're carrying a heavy DSLR, a full frame DSLR, and you're going to be working for 8 hours, firstly you have to be fit. Otherwise, you can just restrict yourself if you're not as healthy as Manish is. you can restrict yourself to just one camera, and capture things with whatever you can with that one camera and one
So
lens.
there was a question from Mithun saying, which year I went and where. So I visited this place in 2016, and it was close to the Mangalore, some 30-40 kilometers away from Mangalore. I don't remember the village name. It must be written somewhere. So generally, after looking at this particular event, I really would like to choose which gives me a more rustic feeling rather than, some kind of a modern structure around. But that's an unfortunate part, because, most of the people, they really want to do something, some kind of a decoration, because they keep getting donations and everything. And really they start forgetting the ethics and, ethnic kind of a style. So it's sometimes disappointing as a people like me who really wants to capture some, old style running and everything. But because of today's modern stuff, you really can't do that. So you have to make things whatever is available to you.
Yeah, Manish, there's another question. Do you post-process your pictures? Is the question here.
Definitely. In earlier days, people used to have a dark room to process their images, to correct their images. I also do that. Like, when I'm doing a travel photography and, documenting stuff like this, I don't do too much of cross processing. Generally, I try to, manage some light conditions and maybe, some sharpness and playing around with clarity to, get little, punchy kind of a stuff. And yes, if I'm making a fine art image, I'll take full liberty of making the way I want to make the image. So travel documentary, you are not supposed to do that, because that's what you are documenting. So leave it as it is in terms of removing some objects and everything. But when you are making a fine art image, you can take the liberty to modify the way you want it.
Right. So I think we've come to the end of the session. I don't see any more questions at this point of time.
I think we are also reaching at the end also of the meeting, if I'm not wrong.
So we've got around 27 participants. So there's around 25 people who attended the session. So thank you very much for joining in, and hope you stay safe and stay protected. And I know it's a difficult time for all of us. I hope that the moment.
Yeah, we have 3 more weeks to do lots of other things. So if you can suggest us offline what topic you would like to do it, we'll go ahead and do it.
Manish, I was suggesting that people who lived in joint families could do a short photo story of their own families, during COVID.
Yeah, like
I
what
think
people are doing during this time. So you can come up with a beautiful story of 3 weeks. What you have done it, and what's happening. Like you start in the morning,
like
you end the day.
people helping out in the house, and
Yes.
what the children are doing. So this would be a good let's practice session for you, and
It's
within the limitations of
Shankar,
you
I
can
really
only
would like to add one thing, because this kind of opportunities you are not going to get every day. It's like in my life I found it this kind of a lockout for the first time. So make this particular lockdown as an opportunity. Document whatever you can, do it, because I'm sure in future you are not going to get this kind of opportunity again.
and I hope also we don't get this
I don't want to
opportunity.
get it actually, but it's okay. So basically, whatever worst situation comes, take it as an opportunity and work towards it.
Yeah, so this way you can also keep your mind occupied. So in the next 1 week, try to capture your expressions of your family members, and try to take some candid pictures, and try to experiment with what's happening around you. And why don't you make a photo essay of the COVID, of your own personal experience?
And I
How are
really
you
would like to see that, at the end of the 3 weeks.
Yeah, so Manish and I would be happy to receive this. We will type in our email ID. So Manish, you can also type in your email ID. I can just don't send high resolution pictures. Upload it maybe in one of the places and send us a link, and we could this is my sorry. Just a moment. I'll give you my email ID. Okay. And Manish, you can also type in your email ID. So you can send us your work, send us a link, put it on, either on Flickr or any of the
So
on
it's always,
Instagram.
I encourage, if you can, use some kind of a blog system where you can put couple of stories and everything, would be great to, review it, rather than, coming everything in a bulk, and we really, don't
Please
see
don't
your
send us
value.
any images directly. Just send us a link that will help us to go through it.
And if you can write it well, it would be great, because there's a double practice of writing yourself, your experience, because your own experience in your own words is always, it's enrich your experience reading and viewing those images rather than just the image.
Right. So thank you very much for being with us today. It was a pleasure sharing our experiences with you. And if you
Thank
would
you so
like
much.
informed of more of our series in the future, so let us know. We'll get other speakers, other people to speak to you on topics. There's a email, and we'll include you in our future presentations as well. So stay safe.
Shankar, it's possible make a WhatsApp group and try to it, so it becomes very easy to send the information rather than email nowadays. That's just a suggestion.
No, most of them are in the WhatsApp group that we have.
Okay.
So
That's perfect.
they're all in some form of the WhatsApp, because the message I only send.
Okay.
So they are already in some WhatsApp group or the other. So we'll be informing them.
Okay.
And we have today people from the IFRP, which is the Federation of Rotarian Photographers.
Okay.
So the Rotarians are doing some great jobs. So this is a great opportunity for the Rotarians to also document the kind of work Rotary is doing. And we have people from my company, 9 Dots. So I see Chandana there. So hello, Chandana. And we have people from our colony. I think there are some people from the colony here. And we also have people from TGIS. Thank God it's Saturday. So these are the forums that I had posted in, and that's where from.
But end of the meeting, I really would like to say thank you so much, Zoom, to providing us a platform to do some kind of an event.
All right. So bye-bye, and thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.